Welcome back to MVM. Today we have a Kickstarter preview. This one is for Barrage from Cranio Creations, their first Kickstarter, in fact. However, the name attached to this game should be familiar. It's Simone Luciani, who has done some of our favorite Euro-style games.
Yes, he has things like Marco Polo, Lorenzo, Council of Four. I mean, we had a chance to sit down with him at Gen Con and play through this a little bit, and we've just got this version and played it a little bit more.
So the theme behind this is you are all CEOs of major corporations in these different nations. I'm playing the French, I think you have the Italians, and we have the Germans over here. All of them are trying to produce energy by using water or hydroelectric energy. The board itself is going to be represented by 3 stages of elevations of a mountain. And you have a high stage, a middle stage, and a low stage. All of these have different build costs for the 4 different types of things you're trying to build on it. You have base dams, you have elevated dams, and then you have the conduits that's going to move the water into the dams, and then you have the power plants.
Yeah, these things are going to be, or end up being, littered all over this board. And like Jeremy said, there's different costs of building those things all throughout this board. Throughout the game, basically the water is going to be trickling down the board through these different areas, and you're, as the player or the CEO, trying to harness this water to get as much energy generated as possible.
Now, this is a big Euro-style game, so we're not going to delve really deep into it, but there's a couple things we wanted to touch on. The first thing, the most obvious thing, is this wheel. You're going to see this wheel, and you're going to say, well, what is this thing? This is really kind of cool. This is where resources are going to be placed and moved around. They're going to be introduced through one section of the wheel and then move around clockwise until those resources come back. This is one of those games where your resources are never truly gone. You're going to collect more and more of the 2 basic resources. You have concrete and then you have dirt, basically. And each are excavations. And these are going to be introduced into that wheel to do things, and they're going to spin around. They're going to come back off for you to use again. However, it's going to tie up those resources for an X amount of time.
Yeah, it definitely creates a situation where you have to plan ahead. You can't just use resources and put something on the board. You do get to put it on the board right away, but it's going to be a while to get those things back. And there's some things you can do on your turns to sort of accelerate that, and of course get more of those items to use on other things.
If you look at the player board itself, it's going to be covered by dams, the conduits, and then the power plants. And below each of these structures, as you build them out from left to right, they're going to give you powers at the start of your turn or one-time abilities. Not only that, each of these boards is different for each of the nations, so you're going to have an ability that is different from the other players. You could also play with the executive officer. So not only are you the CEO, but you have an executive officer that's going to hold all of your different resources, but also provide you with another player power that is unique to you for the entirety of the game. But the game is very simple to play for the most part. It's really about thinking in advance. So it's a worker placement game.
Yeah.
And to play it, you play it in 4 different stages. The 4 different stages, the very first stage is called the income phase. This is where you're going to collect income outside of the first round, because at the start of the game, everyone's going to start with 6 money. However, you're going to collect income wherever you are on this energy track. So you want to produce energy every single round.
Yeah, this track is going to be something that doesn't accumulate over time. Every round it's going to go up, you're going to collect that income, it's going to go set back down to 0, and then you have to climb back up. The hope is that you're going to go further and further each round.
Exactly. And there are penalties for not going further and further as well. Once you are done with collecting the income, then you're going to go to the meat of the game. This is the action phase. Every single one of us is going to start with 12 executives. These are the workers. These workers are going to go to a couple main places. The main place it's going to go is to your own player board. This is a place where no one can mess with you, no one can block you. At the top of your player board, you're going to see spots for 1, 2, 3, or 3 workers plus a cost. When you place these workers here, you are allowed to take one of your production circles or semicircles or whatever you want to call these and place them on your open spot on your wheel with whatever it is that you're trying to produce. Again, each of these is going to have variable costs depending upon the structure you're trying to build and the area of the mountain you're trying to build into.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like we said earlier, you have to use certain resources, but you're only going to get one of these tiles that is a conduit,
Yeah.
for example. There is a wild tile that you can use as well, but in a lot of cases, you're not only waiting for the resources, but you're waiting for just the ability to build that same thing again.
You can do 4 different productions on your turn by putting them into your wheel, although you probably won't have the resources in order to do so. Also, you have a wealth of different possibilities on this board, plus some expansion boards that are also included to allow you to do special buildings or patents that aren't your basic patents, which give you all kinds of player powers. However, let's talk about some basics here. There's a variety of different things. Some of them allow you to spin the wheel faster. Some of them allow you to gain more resources into your pool. Some of them allow you to introduce water to the board in one of the 4 different sections, or even push that water down faster so you can produce a little bit faster. But the 2 main areas are the production and then the contracts themselves. When you produce energy, you can fulfill the contracts that you have. You can hold 2 of them. And then there are contracts equal to the number of players -2. Or -1. So in a 3-player game, we have 2 of these national contracts. Are really hard to fulfill, but they're worth a ton of victory points or a ton of resources.
Yeah, the contracts are going to serve as that little thing that you're going to be trying to score throughout the game. You have those contracts. You're really just achieving a certain level of energy in order to accomplish those contracts, and they're going to give you an immediate reward. The other section is the production section up here. This is where you're going to finally take all of the water that you've harnessed via a dam, through a conduit, and down to your hydroelectric plant, and turn it into energy. It takes some planning to do this.
Right.
There's a number of different ways you can do it, but you're always going to need one of your dams on the board and a plant on the board, but you can actually use another player's conduit if you have access to it.
Yeah, so when you produce, you have to have your dam and your own hydro plant. However, you can go through another player's conduit. In this case, this dam here, and they come in 3 different elevations, a level 1, a level 2, or a level 3. And you can produce water equal to how many water cubes are there. They're simply going to follow a track going from the dam through the conduit down to the power plant itself. The number that's associated with the conduit is how much energy you're producing per water cube that you push through that particular conduit. So you want to build dams up high enough, and you want to go to areas that have a lot of energy production. So for instance, if I have 3 on a conduit that has 5 energy, that's 15 energy that I can push through that area. Again, you want to try to build your structures together because you're getting the benefit. If that was David's conduit, I'm going to be paying him some money and giving him some victory points for using the conduit that he's already pre-built.
Yeah, and there's also some strategy that goes into how you place your dams, because you're not only trying to set those things up to feed that machine, but as you build your dams, if I build dams up here, it's going to keep more of the water up here from getting down here. So if Jeremy's built down here, I might be able to sort of prevent him from getting a lot of the water by storing it up in these pockets.
Once all the players have used all of their engineers, they're then going to go to the water phase. This is when water is always going to naturally move down to the next basin. So in this instance, it's simply going to follow the lake down to the next possible dam. If there's no dam, it's going to fall into the ocean itself. You're also going to introduce more water depending upon which of the 4 rounds you're on. Each of these is going to have a reserve at the top that tells you how much water to introduce. Then you're going to score. At the end of every round, there's going to be a scoring phase. Whoever's progressed the highest on the energy track is going to get victory points, and then less victory points for second place. But you're also trying to meet these goals. And as we said at the very beginning, you are trying to reach very specific areas that are in these columns, so to speak. What if you reach this and have the particular thing that the goal is asking you to have, you're going to get additional victory points on top. Once that is done and everyone's scored, then it becomes a negative victory point. So as you get further into the game, you still have to progress up. You may not reach any goals there, but you're not getting negative victory points. So it's all about, this entire game is all about producing as much energy as you can.
Yeah, this production track is a very unique component of the game. Like Jeremy said, you're going to get penalties, you're going to have some scoring opportunities, and then there are some cases where you can actually choose not to move up very far to avoid the penalties if you don't think you're going to be able to score the bonus for that round.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on in this game. It requires a lot of pre-planning. Some of the things that I want you to walk away with after you've watched this video is, one, this construction wheel is really unique. Having these player boards that is so vastly different from each of the other player boards, you're wanting to move these off onto the board to not only be able to produce stuff, but also to get these income spots that give you victory points or more resources to use or more money at the start of every single round. Plus, every player is going to start with these, which are really cool. And you have a whole bunch of variable things as well. This game is all about variability, like any of the Simone Luciani games that are out there.
Yeah, I would say if you're a fan of his games, and you're a fan of sort of medium to maybe medium plus heavyweight,
probably more on the heavy side, yeah.
Euro games, this is one of those games that you're going to set a lot of things in motion, and hopefully you've planned so that you can reap some rewards later down the road. This is not a game where you're just going to score some points. You have to put some things in motion and have some forethought for sure.
Absolutely. So this is Barrage. This is Cranio Creations' first Kickstarter. If you guys have any questions about the game, please make them in the comments below. As always, go check out their Kickstarter for all the final art, all the final components. And we will catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.